Hi there, my name is April Sawtelle and welcome to my channel. Today what I'm going to be doing is just showing you how to make these origami bags that are right here behind me. I've made mine supersize. I really like a nice big bag when I'm carrying things, so I've made mine really large. What you're going to need for today's project, you're going to need an iron, your scissors, a marking tool, pins, and of course your fabric. And as you can see, I like red, and that's why I made so many, because I've been wanting some new red bags. So this just worked out so perfectly. And let me tell you, it was a blast making them. These are super easy to make, and they are super, super fun. They come together very, very quickly. I think you're really going to enjoy this. I'm going to take you step by step through the whole process. I made mine supersize. When you open these up, I mean, there is a ton of room. Mine measure about inches wide. That's how big they are. So this one here is pretty small. This was 45 inches when I started. This one measures 20 inches wide. You can see the difference here though. I did a little something different to each handle. Like this one, I just put over it like a tube. I put the handle and made the handle just go over the work. This one I attached, you can see here, I just attached those inside flaps to this red piece of fabric. I wanted that extra length. So that did help me do that. All I did was I made the tube and then I just sewed it on top and left a big gap in between, and that gave me that extra length that I was looking for. That worked out really well. This one I did the same. As the first one, I just made the tube and then I just pushed all of the fabric through, so the edges. I'll show you that too as we go. And then of this one, I just added the strap to each corner again, so it gave me that extra length. I like that way better, honestly, because I like it longer. When I make these again, I'm not going to make the boxed edge inside. You'll see on the video that I show you how I made a boxed. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just connect the edges like I did these ones. This one, I sewed the tube on top of the points to give me the extra edge. This one I stuck the points inside a little bit and then sewed over the top. I'm going to do it that way next time, so that they're not meeting each other. They're just inside just a little bit, and then I stitched right over the tops of them. I really like that way better, and it gave me that length that I like. This was an absolute blast to make. I can see making a lot more of these in the future. Okay, let's get started. Today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be making a few origami bags. They're super easy to make, and you can whip them up in absolutely no time at all. So here's one that I've made that's right here behind me. What it is it's just a very loose bag with a handle, and it's just, you can just toss everything right into it. Then you can just put it right over your shoulder, and you can make these in all sizes. This one I did with a 15-inch piece of fabric, and I did 45 long. You take the length of the fabric, which was 15, and then you times that by 3. So I came up with 45 inches long. I'm going to show you how to do that. I've decided to do mine in a few different fabrics. Now, this one isn't that big. I want to make my next one bigger. I'm going to make them from now on. This one was 15 inches. I'm going to make mine at 20 inches. I just like a really big bag that I can toss stuff into. So here's some fabric that I've chosen. I've got some solid here. That's going to be the inside liner, and this is going to be the outside. I'll be doing it with this. This is just cotton, and this is just this piece here I just got at Walmart. This is the Waverly that Walmart carries. So I'm just going to use that for the outside and this cotton for the inside. And then I just have this solid cotton here, and I'm not sure who makes this one. So there's going to be one of the bags. You know that my favorite color is red, so of course I'm going to choose some reds here. I have quite a few red bags that I do carry around with me. They're beach bags, shopping bags, whatnot, but I figured I would make a few more just to have. So here's another fabric that I want to use. This will be the outside, and this will be the inside. Now this one is just cotton, and this one is an upholstery fabric. So I'm still going to just go ahead and use it. I have it, and I'd like to use it up anyway, so that's going to work out perfect. And I think that will look good together. Then I've got this red. This is a upholstery fabric as well. On this piece of fabric, this isn't long enough to really do what I want to do, so I'm just going to attach another piece of fabric to each end, and then it's just going to have 3 fabrics on it. And I'll sew this one in the middle, and I'll see how that one comes out. This one's going to be a mix matched one. And then for the liner for this one, I'm going to use this fabric. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to use this as the outside, and I'm going to attach a piece of this to it, and this will be the inside, and I believe I'm going to put this on the top for the handle. So I'm going to see how these come out. So I've got 21 inches, and then I've got it by 63 inches. I have to sew two pieces together here to give me the 63 inches that I'm going to need. You can do this with fat quarters, you can do this with, you can piece it together, you can do strips, you can do anything you want to. You're just going to need to have two pieces the same size, that's all. You're going to put right sides together and just take and put some pins in just to hold you in place. I've been wanting to make one of these bags for a very long time, so I'm pretty excited, and I am making a few different ones just because I figured I'd do like an assembly line and just get a whole bunch done. I always am on the run, and I always need a big bag to throw everything into, so this is just going to be super. This red is really, really bright in the camera. When I look at my camera and I can see, it's like almost fluorescent, but it's okay because I think after it's on the inside of the bag, I don't think it will look so, I don't think it'll stand out quite that much. So just go ahead, pin all the way around. So this is the other one I just made. This one was just upholstery fabric. I didn't have a piece long enough in the middle here, the stripes, so I just added another piece of upholstery fabric to each end. So I ended up just cutting my sides. All I'm doing is piecing this together to try to come up with 63 inches because I've got 21 inches wide. So all I did was I added these two sides to it. Now I've got my 63 inches wide, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press these seams. I just want to open this up a little bit so it's not, wrinkly right here. I'm just going to set the seam, and then I'm just going to push it open. And, working with this upholstery fabric, this isn't something I don't really know what I would have done with it. It's something that, this is just some upholstery fabric that came in some of the fabric I've bought over the years, like estate sales, yard sales, marketplace. They all just came from somewhere. This isn't something that I just had, like I bought for something, but it's all the colors, of course, that I would use. And so when it came in the bundles that I got, that was great. I never knew what I would do with it, but I knew I would put it to good use someday. Today, I'm going to find a good use for it. And once you iron this upholstery fabric, it really gets flimsier. It's pretty stiff at first, but once you press it, it gets flimsy. And I don't mind. It's for a bag, and I don't mind a stiffer bag, And if it ends up that I've got some selvage on here, that won't bother me at all either, because when I sew in the seams, that will all be covered, because I'm going to be sewing all the way around this. So there, now I've got that piece at 63 inches. And I've got also got the liner cut out of the same fabric. And I will put that all together, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to put the, right sides together, and I'm going to pin all the way around, just like I did on the other one. What I'm doing is I'm just going to make them all at once. I won't show you me sewing them for everyone. I'll only show that one time, but I'll just show you the process that I'm going through and how many bags I'm going to end up getting. I'm like that. I just can't have one of anything. So, this would have been a lot easier had I just decided on one bag, one kind of fabric. It would have been a lot easier, but I wanted to make a whole bunch since I was making them because I think they're just going to be so great. After I made this little one here, I figured definitely I love this. This is a really fun project to make too. A really nice gift too. If you can get somebody with the right colors that what they love for colors, and you can whip them up some of these, they're going to be great for shopping, for grocery shopping, for shopping, just picking up a couple things at the store. And they're just so pretty. And I'm kind of ready to be done with some of my shopping bags. Some of them have had their day. I have tons like everything else. that I have a lot of. I have a lot of grocery bags as well. So it'll be nice to just go in with some flimsy bags and, you know, fill them up too. At least I think that. There are a lot of tutorials out there for these bags. I just want big ones. So I didn't find a lot with the bigger size of origami bag. I know me, I need a really big bag. I need it to really fit me well, hang down. One I saw that hung down, it really hung down low. I wasn't into the low ones, but I wanted to hang here so I can just stuff it as I'm apple picking, so to speak. Choo, 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 choo. Throw it in. You know, you can sew this too. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to stay at 1/4 of an inch. I saw that. Some people said 1/2 an inch. Some people said 1/4 of an inch. It really just, however you want to do. If you're using upholstery fabric, you're probably really going to want to put some pins. It really is shifting a lot. I would think by it being upholstery fabric and super heavy that it wouldn't shift so much, but it really is. It's really shifting. I haven't done a whole lot with upholstery fabric other than upholster like cushions and stuff like that, or benches. I've done stuff like that, but I've never made bags out of this kind of fabric. So this is a first time for me on this. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine. I'm going to go all the way around it, and I'm just going to leave, you know, a 5-inch opening, 6-inch opening right here on the edge so I can turn it through. And I've got one more to get ready. This one's going to be 20 by 60. It is a little bit awkward working with such a long piece of fabric. If you don't have a big surface to work on, what I would do is I would add the pins and I would just keep flattening it out as I'm adding them, and then I would just roll this up. I'm going to use my marking tool here, and I'm going to put a mark here. That's where I'll start, and this is where I'm going to stop so I can put my hand in and pull this right side out when I go all the way around. So I'll start right here. I'm going to follow my 1/4 of an inch. Depending on what you're using for fabric, this is just the cotton, and I'm going to use a 1/4 of an inch. But when I get to the upholstery fabric, I might bring it in a little bit and do like a 1/2 an inch around. So for now, I'm just going to keep my guide here, and I'm just going to follow my 1/4 of an inch, and I'm going to give it a back stitch at the start and at the end. And you can either stop at the end and pivot, or you can go right off. I'm going to go right off. And then I am going to take it out, take my needle up, and I'm going to bring this back under, setting my presser foot right back down, and I'm going to just sew all the way around again. Having a guide on here really makes it helpful. I always use painter's tape, and ever since I've had this seam guide here that sticks on like a magnet, it's very secure. I'm absolutely loving it. So I'm not using the painter's tape now. Take your pins out as you go. So now you're just going to be coming down, and you're going to stop when you get back to this little line here. Here's the line that I made earlier. That's my stop point. I'm going to back stitch right there. So I'll get there, and then I'll give it a back stitch. And there's going to be your opening when you're all done. Now you're just going to pull this right side in. So you just stick your hand in the hole, and you go all the way to the edge here, and you pull that all the way back through the hole. What I do is I take my finger and I just go in and I push all my points out. You take your finger and you stick it right into the point, and you just push that outward. Okay? Do that to all 4 corners. If you have a hard time pushing the point out, just stick like a chopstick or something in there until it comes all the way out. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take and I'm going to press this a little bit. All I'm going to do is I'm going to match up these seams here. Just going to pull them out so they're nice and flat. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press that all the way around. take and roll that seam out a little bit so it's lays right on the edge. I'm going to use a little bit of steam, and now you can see that lays nice and flat and it's together on the edge. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that all the way around. So when you get to this opening here, I'm just going to pull that, and I'm going to let that lay flat so both those folds are folded in. I'm going to press that down so it lays nice and flat. I'm going to give it a little bit of steam. I'm going to be top stitching right over this whole thing, and I want that all tucked in there. I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew it around the entire piece, giving it a top stitch. I'm going to sew at about 1/4 inch. This is where I turned my fabric through, and that's where my blue lines are, and I'm going to start right there. I've got red thread in to coordinate, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to back stitch right there. I'm going to go all the way around this entire piece here. When I come to the end, I'm going to pivot. I'm going to pivot at 1/4 inch. When I showed you before, I went off it, but this now I'm going to just pivot so I don't have a line going through it. Okay, and I'm just going to continue on. And I'm coming right back, and when I get there, I'm just going to come right over just a couple of stitches and give it another back stitch. And break the thread right there. What you want to do now is you want to just make sure that the side that you want on the outside of your bag is face up. So you're going to take your right side, your right corner here, pull that down all the way to the bottom. So it gives you this triangle. You're going to do the same thing on your left side. You're just going to pull that right up to the edge. So again, you're going to have another triangle. You're just going to match those edges together. You might need to just, take your fingers and pull your fabric down a little bit. So your corner here is going to be folded in half as well. Okay? This is why you have to have the length times 3. Here's your 3. We'll look at them like they're squares. 1, 2, 3. You're going to take from your left-hand side, and you're just going to pull this triangle all the way down till it meets this side. So now it's looking like this. I'm going to try to pull this up so you can see. This is actually taking shape. This is the shape that my bag is going to be. So you're going to pull. Now, let's do that one more time. Pull your right side down to meet all the edges. And just flatten that out, making sure it's at the edges. That's folded in half. So you've got this section. Now you've got this section. And this section and this section are the same exact size. And then you're going to take from this side, from your left side, and you're just going to pull that up. Doing the same thing, you're going to fold it in half, and you're going to want to take your fingers and pull that down so it's nice and flat right up against the edge. Now, take your left hand and pull this down. You just hold these sides if you want. Pull this down all the way till it touches that triangle. Okay? And now I'm going to pull this towards the camera. And you can see this is the shape it's going to be. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this point here and this, see how I brought these together? I'm going to bring that together and I'm going to pinch them and I'm going to start sticking some pins in there. That's going to be my seam that I'm going to be creating here. So I'm going to add pins and I'm going to go all the way down. Just pulling those two pieces together, making them even on the edges. Okay, so that seam is done. I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to do the same thing to this side. Just going to grab both sides here. I'm going to pull that together and I'm just going to put the pins in. This is such a fun project. So all I'm focused on is this seam and this back seam. I'm not focused on where anything else is laying, okay? I'm not concerned that I'm not seeing this straight or anything like that because I'm all straight everywhere else. So it'll straighten itself out as I go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the sewing machine now, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to sew down 1/4 of an inch all the way down. I'm going to back stitch at each end on that side, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So I'm going to put this under my presser foot, and I'm going to put it a little bit off, not right on the where I got to start my seam. I'm going to put it a little bit off. That way it gives it that 1 or 2 stitches beyond the fabric. So I'm going to hit that. There's one, okay, it went 1 stitch. And then I'm going to give it a back stitch to that same point. That's going to secure that really good. I'm going to pull my pins out as I go, and I'm just following 1/4 of an inch, and that's probably going to put me right here on this other seam that I have, that I made earlier. And I'm going to pull my pins out as I go. And I'm going to back stitch at the front, and I'm going to back stitch at the end. Okay, I'm flipping it over, and I'm doing the same thing to that other seam that I made. I'm going to back stitch at the beginning, pull the pins out as I go, and I'm going to sew 1/4 of an inch again all the way down. And you just want to make sure there's nothing underneath where you're stitching. You just want to keep that all clear at all times. Just push everything away. Okay, I'm coming to the end. I'm going to sew right off about a stitch. About 1 or 2 stitches, I'm going to come off this edge here, just like I did on that other one. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a couple of back stitches right there. That's going to secure that good and tight. And I went off just a smidge. That way, see how I'm like 1 stitch off? And that will just secure it. And I've got a couple of stitches there. Okay, now I'm just going to turn this right side out. And I'm going to put my hand back in, and I'm going to push those points out. So this bag is really big. This is exactly what I want for size, though. Remember, you can make this any size you want. My bag is 30 inches. 30 inches from here to here. So you've got a lot of room inside of there. I'm just going to make a handle to put on top of this. So what I'm going to do is I want to make a pretty big one. So I'm going to cut this piece here that I just cut. It's about 4.5 by 6.5 inches. All I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take the iron. I'm going to do about 1/4 of an inch fold on one side, and then I'm going to fold it one more time to give it a finished look of about 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to do that to both sides. Press that down. I'm going to go over to the sewing machine, and I'm just going to sew a straight stitch here and a straight stitch here. And then I'm going to turn this and fold it together, and I'm going to do 1/4 of an inch all the way down. I'm going to move my gauge out of the way. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to sew right on the edge, and I'm going to sew that all the way down. Okay? Just to hold that down. I'm going to do the same to the other side. I'm going to put my presser foot toe right on the edge of the fabric. I want to keep it right to the edge, so. See, now it's just nice and tacked down. Now I'm going to pull this together, fold it in half, and I'm going to sew 1/4 of an inch all the way down, and I'm going to back stitch at both edges. I'm just following my presser foot. I'll put this back now. That magnet's so strong. Okay. And I'm going to sew down, and I'm going to back stitch. Now I've got to turn this out. Now I'm using upholstery fabric, so remember this is going to be really thick to turn through if you're using upholstery fabric. All right, I'm just going to have to use my tweezers to pull that through. It's just thick. A little bit of maneuvering if you're using upholstery fabric. Here's my little tube that's going to go right over my handles. When you sew that seam, you really want to sew back and forth a few times because that's right where the weight's going to be pulling on that bag. I did do it, but I want to stress to just be sure that you really go back and forth where that's going to catch right there. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm taking my strap here and I'm opening that up and I'm going to do the same to this one. So from the direction that I'm looking at this like there is a triangle, but I'm looking at it like it's a square. See my square here? I'm going to connect these and I'm going to sew an actual square. And I'm going to sew a square just like this. And I'm going to even put a little X through it. That's going to hold that together really strong. It's going to be really secure. But before I do that, I'm going to take and I'm going to come to this side. Now I've got that all marked out where I want it. I know it's going to be right here on this edge. They'll be even. I'm going to stick my piece here that I just made. And I'm going to squeeze this together. I'm going to push the handle right through here. And once I can't reach it, I probably still can't reach it, I'll just stick my tweezers in there and grab it. Okay, and I'm going to pull that through. So now it's going to look like this. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to open this back up like it's a square. So I'm like looking at it from here to here. And then I'm going to take this square and I'm going to line this square on top of this bottom square. I'm going to put a pin or two in there. I'm not coming in much. I'm only coming in enough to get this square, this side of the square, on top of this fabric. So just a couple of inches. I'm going to stick a pin that way and I'm going to stick a pin this way. I'm going to go over to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew this square here and then I'm going to sew an X through it. That's going to secure this really tight. Now, remember, I've already got my piece here. There's my piece that I just made. That's going to be the cover to cover that square, and it's going to look messy. So that's going to cover that right up. Okay, I'm going to put my presser foot down. I'm looking at my square. I'm not going to go over my pins, and I'm going to back stitch. I'm going to give it a couple stitches, and then I'll give it a couple of back stitches there. I'm going to pull these pins as... I'm just going to pull them out of the way at first because I want to leave them in there still. Come down, give it a few more back stitches. There, I'm just going to turn my bag. I'm going to come over this way. And I'll give it a couple of back stitches. Just because I want to. I want it really secured. Just want to make sure it's always laying flat. Everything's flat here. Now I'm going to come down this side of my square to secure those pieces. Okay, I'm going to pivot and turn. And I'm on the last part of my square, making sure everything's pulled out. So I'm coming down to the point of beginning, and I'm just going to go ahead and give it a back stitch. Now, it doesn't matter that I'm not exactly in my square. That's not what matters. What matters is that it's secured down. You're not going to see this anyway because it's going to have that little tube that I made over it. So I'm just going to try to get to a point, and I'm going to go to the point, and I'm going to come down and give it a back stitch. I'll break the thread. All I'm doing here is I've put my needle down on that point of the square on each corner, and I'm going to give it a couple of back stitches. I'm going to come down to this point and give it a couple of back stitches, and that's going to give the X inside of my box. You can see the stitches here for the square, and then you can see that I just did that X right there. Now I want to take my little sleeve here, a little tube, and I'm going to pull that over and make it fold out. I'm going to put it right in the center, and that is going to give me that handle. And there's the handle. I've got the seam right on the bottom of that handle. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. It was just so much fun to make. Please like, subscribe, ring the bell so you're notified of every time I put out a new video. If you do make this bag, please leave in the comments. I'd love to hear how it goes for you guys. They're so much fun. I'd love to hear all about it. If you ever want to see something more than sewing and you're a little bit interested in decluttering, you can jump over to my other channel. It's called Hanging with April, and I post things on there such as weight loss and decluttering, just a little bit of everything. I will see you next time. Remember to keep it simple. Have a nice day. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.